Hey everyone, this is the second day of our very small unit on circles. Today we're going to be reviewing the two major parts of a circle that we first discussed yesterday, and we're going to be talking about the area of a circle. Okay, so let's do a review from yesterday of those two main components that make up a circle. And that first main component is a radius. Now, the radius is the distance from the center point of the circle to any point on the circle. It is the smaller line segment shown here. The diameter is the segment that contains the center of the circle and whose endpoints are on the circle. That is the longer line segment shown here. Okay, yesterday we talked about the relationship between the radius and the diameter. The radius is half the length of the diameter. We can also say that the diameter is twice the length of the radius. That relationship allowed us to find the radius and the diameter of given circles. So we're going to do some more practice with that today. So here I have 4 circles. Our first step is to identify which component of the circle did I give you. Did I give you a radius or did I give you a diameter? We're going to identify what the radius is, and then we're going to identify what the diameter is as well. So for letter A, we need to be able to identify the fact that I gave you a radius. I gave you that smaller line segment. So the radius of this circle is going to be equal to 5. Now I need to use the relationship between the radius and the diameter to figure out what the diameter is, because I did not tell you what the diameter is, nor did I draw it in this circle. So we need to know that the diameter is twice the length of the radius. Okay, so twice means to multiply by 2. So I'm simply going to take the radius and multiply it by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, which makes our diameter of this circle equal to 10. Okay, for letter B, I gave you the diameter of the circle. The diameter was equal to 12. So I know my diameter is 12. Now I need to use the relationship between the two to determine what my radius is. Well, my radius is half the length of the diameter. Half means 2, so divide by 2. So I'm going to take my diameter and divide it by 2. All right, so 12 divided by 2 is 6, so that means that the radius is equal to 6. All right, letter C. I gave you the radius, which is equal to 4, so we're simply going to type in 4. And I need to find my diameter. Well, my diameter is twice the length of the radius, so twice just means to multiply by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8, so my diameter is equal to 8. Okay, last but not least, in letter D, I gave you the diameter. The diameter was equal to 16. So I have to determine what the radius is. Well, the radius is half the length of the diameter. So I simply have to take the diameter of 16 and divide it by 2, which is 8. So the radius is equal to 8. Okay, now we're going to be talking about area. So yesterday we were talking about circumference, which was the distance around the circle on the outside. Today we're going to be looking at area, which is the total number of square units that cover a circle. So the amount of space inside of the circle. Just like circumference, we have a formula for area. And that formula is area is equal to pi r squared. Just like circumference, the pi and the r squared are right next to each other. Those two are being multiplied together. Okay, so the only difference with this formula is we have an r squared. Remember, when we square a number, that means we're multiplying that number by itself. Okay, it does not mean times 2. So we're going to do a bunch of practice with these. Now, we can find the area when given a radius or when given a diameter, because we know the relationship between the radius and the diameter. We're first going to be finding the area when given a radius. Well, there's an r in this formula. The radius is the piece of information we need in order to find the area. So our first step is going to be find the radius, which in this case is just going to be looking at a circle and identifying what the radius is that I give you. Then we're going to be squaring the radius. And again, that means to take the radius and multiply it by itself. Okay, and then we're going to multiply the radius squared by pi. We're going to leave it in terms of pi. So just like circumference, we're simply going to bring down that pi sign. Okay, so now let's look at some examples. So here we have 4 circles and given a radius, and we're going to find the area using this formula. So first step is to identify your radius. For these problems, we simply need to look at them and just figure out, well, what is the radius labeled? In this case, it's 5. So the radius of this circle is 5, which tells us that I'm going to bring down the a because I do not know what a is just yet. Then I'm going to bring down the equal sign. I'm bringing down pi. Okay, then the radius is 5, and I'm squaring that. All right, so now I'm going to square the radius. So that means take 5 and multiply it by itself, which is 5 times 5. So 5 times 5. Now we are simply going to multiply the two numbers together and bring down the pi. So the area is going to be equal to 5 times 5, which is 25, and bring down the pi. So the area of this circle is simply 25 pi. Okay? Just like the circumference formula, the only difference is now we are squaring the radius. So we're taking that radius and multiplying it by itself. All right, let's look at the second one. In this circle, the radius is equal to 3. So I'm going to take that radius and I'm going to plug it into this formula. So I'm bringing down the variable a because I do not know what the area is. I'm bringing down the equal sign. I'm bringing down the pi. Okay, and instead of writing the variable r, I'm going to plug in the radius, which is 3, and I have to square that. So got to be careful here, guys. Again, when you square a number, that means you're taking that number and you're multiplying it by itself. You are not multiplying it by 2. So I'm bringing down the a, I'm bringing down the equal sign. I'm bringing down the pi. Now I have to do 3 squared. So again, 3 squared is not equal to 3 times 2. It's equal to 3 times 3. Okay, now I'm going to multiply the two numbers together. Bring down the a, bring down the equal sign. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. And then I'm going to bring down the pi. So the area of this circle is equal to 9 pi. Okay. Next one. First step, identify what your radius is. In this case, our radius is equal to 12. So I'm going to use my formula and plug in my radius instead of writing r. So I bring down the a, I bring down the equal sign, I bring down the pi. Now instead of writing the variable r, I'm going to plug in 12. And we have to square the 12. Okay, so I'm going to bring down the a again, bring down the equal sign, bring down the pi. Now 12 squared is equal to 12 times 12. Okay, multiply those two numbers together. So 12 times 12 is equivalent to 144. And then bring down the pi. So the area of this circle is equal to 144 pi. And that is it. Okay, guys, so again, simply taking the radius, plugging it into the formula. Okay, now that's how you find the area given a radius. But just like yesterday with circumference, we can find the area given the diameter. Now, although we do need to know the radius for this formula because there's an r in it, we have to simply figure out what the radius is just by dividing the diameter by 2 because we know the radius is half the diameter. So that would be our first step. So find the radius by dividing the diameter by 2. Then we're going to plug it into the formula just like we've been doing. Okay, so let's look at a bunch of examples. So in this first circle here, I gave you a diameter. That diameter is equal to 16. Well, I need to figure out what my radius is. My radius is equal to half of my diameter. Half means to divide by 2. So I'm going to take my diameter and divide it by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So that means my radius is equal to 8. And that's a piece of information I need in order to figure out what the area is. So now I'm going to plug in my radius into my formula. So instead of writing the variable r, I'm going to write the number 8. And I have to square that. Okay, so bring down the a again, bring down the equal sign, bring down the pi. Okay, now I got to square 8. So 8 squared is equivalent to 8 times 8. Okay, so I'm going to multiply these two numbers together and bring down the pi. So 8 times 8 is 64, and I simply need to bring down the pi. So the area of this circle is simply 64 pi. All right. Second one. Again, I gave you a diameter. The diameter is equal to 18. We need to figure out what the radius is. Well, the radius is half the length of the diameter, so I have to take 18 and divide it by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9, which tells me that the radius of this circle is equal to 9. So now I'm going to plug that radius into our formula, bring down the a, bring down the equal sign, bring down the pi. Instead of writing the variable r, we're going to plug in 9, and then we have to square that 9. So bring down the a again, bring down the equal sign again, bring down the pi again, and 9 squared is equal to 9 times 9. Now multiply those two numbers together. 9 times 9 is equal to 81, and then simply bring down the pi. So the area of this circle is 81 pi. Okay, we'll do one more. Again, I gave you a circle with a diameter. That diameter, that diameter is equal to, can't spell, equal to 26. We got to find the radius. Well, the radius is half the length of the diameter, so I have to take 26 and divide it by 2. 26 divided by 2 is 13. So now I'm going to be plugging in 13 into my formula where I see r. So I bring down the a, bring down the equal sign, bring down the pi. Instead of writing r, I'm going to plug in 13, and then I have to square the 13. So again, bring down the a, bring down the equal sign. We're going to bring down the pi again, and then 13 squared is equal to 13 times 13. Okay, now I'm going to multiply those two numbers together. 13 times 13 is equal to 169. So I'm going to write 169, and then I'm going to bring down the pi. That tells me that the area of this circle is 169 pi. All right. Ladies and gents, you're going to do some practice with this in the circles and area assignment. That is also a Google slide. You will identify more radius and diameters of circles. Then you will be finding the area given a radius, and then the area given a diameter. Okay, I have the formulas listed here for you. Just like yesterday, when you're finding the area, it is a drag and drop. You can either type in your work or show it on a separate sheet of loose leaf. If you show it on a separate sheet of loose leaf, you do not need to submit that to me. Okay, just simply drag your answers into the appropriate box. Okay, guys, as always, if you have any questions, please ask me.